Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidel.
And I'm Donna Blanchard.
In our show this time, we'll cover the ThinkTech panel program on the military in Hawaii. An uncertain future?
Dan Inouye was our great connection with the military, and we worried that with his death, all that would end. Now, 2 years later, things seem strangely back to a new normal, but with less funding. We wonder what happens next.
So it does seem like a good time to take stock of how things are doing in the military and to examine the factors that Washington will consider for the continuation of our role as the primary outpost in the Pacific.
Of course, we're still halfway to Asia, and the military has a long tradition here. The Navy began operating in Pearl Harbor in 1874. The military is intertwined with our society. It is 10% of our workforce. We are affected by its presence as no other state.
The global game has changed. War is now more high-tech and remote than boots on the ground. The military must deal with terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, cyber war, and deceptive manipulation of public opinion.
The role of the military has changed profoundly since Vietnam, from violent conflict to soft power and humanitarian relief, from conscription to a politically correct, highly trained volunteer force.
U.S. strategy changed when the president made the pivot to Asia, and then changed again when the action shifted to the Middle East. Does that mean Washington will move assets to the East Coast, or to Guam, Okinawa, or points west?
In 2005, we worried about the closing of the Pearl Harbor shipyard, which employs 10,000 people. Dan Inouye saved it. Is that risk over, or should we still be concerned? He also wanted to bring a carrier here. That's not very likely now.
Austerity governs. We're not a rich state anymore, and we don't seem to be a rich country either. We can't afford the things we had before. So we shouldn't deceive ourselves hoping for a return to the lush days of earmarks and pork.
Are we as close to the military as we were before 9/11? Increased security still limits access to the bases. In a democratic society with a volunteer force bristling with secrecy and power, we need to trust them, and they need to trust us.
The islands are more crowded these days, and residential areas encroach on bases. Live fire training is riskier. Accidents like the recent Osprey crash are close. So is the deterioration of the tanks at Red Hill. Is Oahu still safe for operations?
People change. A generation that was in grade school when the USS Greenville sank the Himemaru in 2001 has come of age and found its stride, blocking ferries, GMOs, and astronomy. It seems to be taking on more protests all the time. The program involved a discussion of the status of the military in Hawaii, the implications and economics of having it here, and the political and strategic considerations of keeping it here.
The speakers were Bill Kearns, retired Navy captain, now director of defense programs at Oceanit; Mark Takai, freshman congressman; Ralph Cossa, a Pacific Forum, CSIS, an international think tank in Hawaii; Colleen Hanabusa, former Hawaii Congresswoman; Jeff James, a retired Navy captain, now with Booz Allen Hamilton; Stan Osserman, a retired Air National Guard general; Jennifer Sabas, formerly Dan Inouye's chief of staff; and Zlatoper. At the program, Bill Kearns made opening remarks. He spoke about the history and tradition of the military in Hawaii, why it's important that the military know more about the civilian community, and vice versa.
I'm certain that our panel will touch upon history, economics, international relations, and other aspects of this complex subject. For those of us in the technology industry, the presence of U.S. Pacific Command, each of the services' Pacific headquarters, and training ranges and operating forces, all this enables a strong connection between the military and Hawaii technology firms. The U.S. Department of Defense is the world's largest investor in research and development. With over $60 billion in R&D last year, this tops the R&D budgets of the top 5 private U.S. sector firms combined. So DoD's R&D programs are not only for military purposes, but also for energy, health, information systems, and other areas with commercial applications.
Mark Takai spoke by video. He spoke about the current leadership and mood in Congress on austerity, defense spending, earmarks, the role of the Hawaii delegation, what it looks like for us going forward.
As we continue to rebalance to the Pacific, we mark a significant shift in our nation's defense and foreign policy strategies. Hawaii is expected to continue to play a prominent role in this rebalance, and ensuring that our state has the resources it needs to accommodate this important role is a priority for the Hawaii's congressional delegation. While there are many issues that divide Congress, the need for a robust national defense is not one. Our country has consistently shown that we recognize the need for a strong national defense and are willing to allocate funds in order to do so. While many of the federal spending levels continue to be held at the sequester caps, defense spending has been allowed to exceed those levels. This year's NDAA authorizes defense spending at almost $38 billion over the sequester caps. To put that into perspective, the entire discretionary budgets for the Departments of Transportation and Housing Development was $55 billion. And while unfortunately both parties disagree on the tactics for that were used to increase defense spending to the President's budget request, it shows that most of Congress at least agree that it needs to be at that level.
Ralph Cossa spoke about the changes in the role of our military in recent years, changes to the pivot to Asia in recent years, and changes affecting Hawaii's strategic position in the Pacific.
I think probably everyone here is familiar with the term pivot or rebalance, and obviously Hawaii plays a very key role in that. But I think it's important to sort of understand just what it is and how it fits. The rebalance, if you will, was a reaffirmation, a revalidation of U.S. interests in the Asia-Pacific region. It's real, it's funded. People are out there every day doing things that demonstrate that. I'm sure there'll be examples that will come out during our discussions. But with the hundreds of positive examples, there's at least one negative example, which I will get to later in my remarks. I think that the key thing about the pivot for this discussion is, will it last? Is this an Obama idea, or is this an idea that is going to perpetuate into the future since our military is so invested in it? To understand that, I think you have to understand that while the word pivot is new, the rebalance is new, the shift to Asia started in the Bush administration, the George H.W. Bush administration.
Colleen Hanabusa spoke about the factors Washington will consider in setting spending levels in Hawaii, what state government can do to help, who should be doing what.
Simplest answer to what factors Washington will consider in setting spending limits in Hawaii is, well, you know what? It's my district, my state first. So in other words, we have, it's numbers. We have 2 members of Congress and 2 senators like everyone else. But when you think about it, California has 53 members of Congress to our 2. So a lot of the decisions as to what levels of spending is going to be set is really tied to, well, how does your level of spending then affect us, and how many people am I going to get to agree with me? So how do you offset that? How do you then make Hawaii's importance significant so that they will say, okay, you know what, we need to concentrate on Hawaii? The answer is the uniqueness of Hawaii and what we say we do that no one else can do. And the military presence, and you can't think about how significant Hawaii is without, and Jennifer is here, but without thinking of the work that Senator did and the farsightedness that he had. And when you think about, for example, the positioning of the PACOM headquarters here, or PMRF, Mark calls it Barking Sands, it's PMRF, and I believe they just renamed it in Senator's honor, right? Didn't they name it yet? They will name it in Senator's honor as well.
Jeff James spoke about the activities and size of military and defense facilities and projects in Hawaii, expansions and reductions of existing facilities, and how contractors are doing these days.
We've got, as was said earlier, we've got all 4 services, all 5 services, I guess, if you add in the Coast Guard, represented here in Hawaii. And the common thread across all the services is the aging infrastructure at the facilities on the bases. The last base I was at, Pearl Harbor and Hickam, it's within a National Historic Landmark, so everything's historic. So anything you want to do, it is not easy. If you want to try to, bring in technology, if you want to upgrade a facility, if you want to do anything in that respect to help and support the warfighting mission. Over the last few years, it's no surprise that there's been a decline in the military budget. Sequestration really hit hard. I remember going from, I don't remember the number, but we went from a large number to 1/3 of that large number for sustainment purposes across the installation after sequestration. Now, some of that's coming back up. The MILCON numbers are coming back up. That has a huge impact on the state of Hawaii because who's doing the MILCON? The military may come up with the idea, but it is the civilian architecture and engineering firms, it's the civilian construction firms, it's the civilian consultants that live and work here that bring the work, and so the impact on the economy is huge.
Stan Osserman spoke about the size and demographic of the military and retired community in Hawaii, including the National Guard, its effect on the local economy, and its relationship with the community.
I had the unique opportunity to work with Jennifer and the Senator Inouye when he was alive, enough to know that he didn't do things without a long-term plan. And the projects that he brought to life in Hawaii that dealt with the military and other sectors of the university system, they're enduring. And he built them to be enduring. And I think we missed that point. When I heard everybody wringing their hands over, well, when Senator Akaka and Senator Inouye are gone, then all heck's going to break loose and we're going to lose all our money. I have some of the statistics from DBED here on this chart. We have more people on active duty in the state of Hawaii today than we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the height of Vietnam, and back into the 50s. The senator knew what he was doing. Some of the things we forget to look at, though, and it was mentioned by Congresswoman Hanabusa, the Center for Excellence in Disaster Management on Ford Island. HNEI at the University of Hawaii does a lot of research. That was brought up several times. HCATT, my organization, I'm sitting on the end of a $22 million cooperative agreement and getting ready to ink another $20 million cooperative agreement with the Air Force to do research. Maui Supercomputer, Spay Wars, APCSS. I mean, the APCSS at Fort Drusi does amazing work that goes little noticed.
Jennifer Sabas spoke about the changes in defense spending for Hawaii over recent years and since the senator's passing, and what it takes and will take to get more spending from Congress.
What Stan said is exactly correct. He was a long-term planner. He planned everything. He was very Yoda-like in what he thought about all of the impacts. But he not only invested in all of the stuff that they talked about, from the missile range to the brand new headquarters at PACOM. I don't think I ever saw Tom Fargo as happy a camper as they sat down looking at the plans about the brand new headquarters that he would someday call his own or command from. But he also invested incredibly in people. And there's so many of you that are in this room that had the opportunity, not only me, but to work with him. And some of your predecessors also had that opportunity. And so he also knew not only making monetary investments, but also making investments in people. And so as his days became shorter, he was even more focused and then even more confident that when his day was done, that the people of Hawaii would know what they needed to do to carry forward. And it was very easy to do the hand-wringing. But not too long after that, I think it became very clear that the void he left needed to be filled by everybody in this community.
Zap Zlatoper spoke about why the country needs a strong military in these times, why Hawaii needs the military here, the role of defense spending, the risks to the country, and Hawaii if we don't have them.
The 21st century is the century of the Pacific, by any measure you want to be. You can't argue with me factually on that. Economic, militarily, politically, diplomatic, you heard the numbers. I think Colleen brought it up. Jeff, 3 or 4 of the panel brought this. By any measure, this is the century of the Pacific, and we are the hub of the Pacific where we're located right now. Number 2, military in Hawaii, that's the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard. overseas more than half the world. It's 100 million square miles. You can, from Hollywood to Bollywood, from polar bears down to penguins. That's the region that the folks here in Hawaii oversee, okay? 5 of the 7 military treaties that we hold are in this region. Okay, so we are, there is, and third, there is a Pacific pivot, if you will. However, I will offer you a caution. Not everybody buys into it. Ralph brought up some of it. I don't know how many of you subscribe to Stratfor. It's a civilian intelligence agency. They put out a daily report. Every large corporation that I've served with gets it on a daily basis, and their CEO reads it. This was yesterday's comment from George Friedman in Stratfor. In spite of U.S. rhetoric about a pivot to Asia, East Asia is not the United States' top priority in Asia. Washington's main concerns remain the Middle East and the borderland between Russia and the European Peninsula. Unless East Asia undergoes a fundamental redefinition, the United States has few interests that involve military intervention. South Korea's concern is preventing the collapse of the North Korean regime. But the price that West Germany paid to integrate East Germany is not something the South is eager to bear. And China, for all its posturing, is more than content to not have to face the United States at sea.
Remember when we had 3 legs on the stool of our economy? Agriculture, tourism, and the military. Agriculture is gone, and we still don't have a tech industry. Offshore investors doing real estate won't save us. So it's all the more important that we have and keep the military.
Dan Inouye did the heavy lifting by himself. At this point, our federal and state officials should be collaborating hard to take up where he left off and do the best job possible here at home and in Washington. Nostalgia is not enough.
Nation states do not survive by good deeds alone, and Hawaii will not survive by hospitality alone. Let's not be complacent about our economy, or for that matter, our existence.
Actually, I learned something that I already know, which is collaboration and the importance of collaboration and getting together in these meetings to talk to high-quality speakers.
Being a strong military guy and being the major military guy at the state legislature every year for 30 years now, I think there's no question that the military is going to remain. And as somebody pointed out, the numbers are bigger now than they were years ago, and I didn't realize that.
The speakers came from very diverse background. They had a lot of insight into how military contributes to the Hawaii state economy.
I thought it was wonderful. And I think the more opportunities, maybe we have an active duty. I think the more communication between is really the way Hawaii is going to move forward. The other thing I didn't mention is the legislature provided a position in the governor's office, which the governor is embracing, to be a senior advisor in military affairs. So the council has been asked to provide a short list of potential candidates. Again, one more connection piece that we need to, so we move together.
It's on July 16th. It'll be right here, and we'll be doing it, you and I, Jay, and many more on the Clean Energy Day. It's our annual event, and this year it's called Power to the People. And what we'd like to do is expand the discussion and inform the public about 3 major issues that are happening in Hawaii. And then we're going to have awards to 5 transformational achievements for 2015. And come down and find out. Of course, the keynote speaker will be the governor talking about the state of clean energy.
I wish we'd had another hour to do more of the questions, because I'm sure there were some very good ones in there. But it also shows people really care. They are concerned about what the fate is of the military here, and I think people do generally appreciate the importance of it.
I've already talked to Audrey from the AP today and talked about, she said, you made a comment about, do we have enough ships? And I said, candidly, for the first time in 15 years, to my knowledge, now we don't have an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. And that's not because we wouldn't like to have one, no matter what they say. There's bigger demand and requirement than we have assets. So.
I work as chief of staff for one of the representatives over at the Capitol, and it has always occurred to me as a person who spent 34 years in the military, and I say I knew General Osserman when he had hair that wasn't gray, that in a lot of the things that I see, a lot of times people from the building don't show up. One of the protesters told me that now that I'm not in office, I can
I can help them with demilitarizing Hawaii. I thought that was kind of interesting. That's kind of neat. Yeah, neat that they would think that.
Really pleased with the turnout we had, a all-star panel, and really grappling with the tough questions. It's clear it's of interest to a lot of people, what the military's up to and what the future is, and has a big impact here in Hawaii.
Great hearing the different perspectives. I mean, this is a very diverse group, senior thought leaders here in Hawaii with a lot of experience, and I actually took quite a bit away, and it was nice to have Admiral Zlatoper closer. He's got kind of that strategic vision and that strategic view, and I thought it was definitely worthwhile, and I'd like to be part of this again if I could.
Well, what surprised me was that all of the speakers, all the presenters, they attacked the questions from enough of a variety of perspectives that I think there's something there for everybody to really grab onto and understand. Next week I start the hydrogen implementation working group. That's that House Bill 1296 got passed. The governor signed it while I was in D.C., and now I'm officially the coordinator for all the hydrogen fuel cell stuff. So we're stepping out and running as of next week. In fact, Friday we're doing a steering committee, and Monday, Tuesday is a working group.
Great speakers, great information, a lot of new ideas to think about.
So I've come to a couple of ThinkTech programs. Some of them are very, very interesting. I learn something every time I come. But this concept of the relationship, I get it. I've watched it happen. What it takes is it takes time, and it takes patience. So from my perspective, as I went through my time here in Hawaii, I realized I had to reach out and touch people. And not just kind of be there, but I had to listen. I had to talk to them and build that relationship. And once you build that relationship, I'll tell you, this place can move.
I like the idea that everyone was looking intergenerationally. So they're trying to figure out not what does the military mean for Hawaii today, but our kids, our grandkids, and down the road.
Anytime there's a controversy outside, it's a good meeting.
It is, right? It's an issue to be discussed. That's what it means. Remember our drone thing? And we had a lot of controversy about the drone thing outside as well. And so I think this is the same way.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts its talk shows live on the internet from noon to 5 p.m. on weekday afternoons, and then we broadcast our earlier shows all night long. If you missed a show, or if you want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on demand on YouTube.
Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our weekly calendar and our live stream and YouTube links, or better yet, to sign on to our email list and get the daily docket of our upcoming shows.
ThinkTech has moved into larger quarters in Pioneer Plaza, and our new studio here is really beautiful. We invite you to come down, see our studio, and be part of our live audience. Contact me, Jay, at thinktechhawaii.com. Be part of our civic engagement here on ThinkTech.
Do you like ThinkTech? Give us a thumbs up on YouTube or send us a tweet at ThinkTechHI. We want to know what you're thinking and how you feel about current issues and events affecting Hawaii. We want you to stay in touch with us, and we want to stay in touch with you. Let's think together.
On July 16th, ThinkTech will join with the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum in presenting Hawaii Clean Energy Day 2015, called Powered to the People, at the Laniakea YWCA.
The program will be broadcast around the islands, and it'll take up the transformations that have been taking place in energy over the past year. And it will discuss and ask attendees and listeners to express their views on critical policy questions going forward.
Join us and raise your awareness about the critical changes taking place in Hawaii. Be a part of the conversation and sign up to attend on thinktechhawaii.com.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech, but first, we want to thank our underwriters who are so very important to us.
Okay, Donna, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech, here in our brand new studio at Pioneer Plaza. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 like 7 times a week. Can't get enough of it, just like Donna does, while she's not building new studios. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Definitely, Jay. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or volunteer, a producer or intern, yes, even an OC16 host like me, and help us reach and have an impact on Hawaii.
Thanks so much for being part of our ThinkTech family and for supporting our open discussion of tech, energy, diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. I'm Jay Fidel.
I'm Donna Blanchard. See you center stage.
Oh.